All right, it is 6:05 p.m. and I'm calling the select board to order. There is no American flag here, so we will skip the Pledge of Allegiance. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. Are there any public comments from the board? Any public comments from the public?
Yes, Glenn McLeod, 436 Reservoir Road. Just following up last night's town meeting, I won't recite everything, but I would just urge the board to, for the next town meeting, bring those two issues, that being the pay and vacation time for new employees. I think that's critical to the recruitment aspect of the town's plan, which again, I do thank the board as well as the interim town manager. You know, I fall into the category of a fan. I commend the town for making efforts to make the town a better employer. And I think, again, for recruitment, those two issues are critical. And second, as far as the issue of the personnel board came up several times, and I would suggest some form of report on why there was a mass resignation. I'd hate to, you know, for myself or any other resident to have to go through the motions and learn a lesson, because I would assume from the outside that there's a message there. I simply have no idea what that message is. So I think anyone considering that as a volunteer opportunity would like at least some form of report on that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any public comments on Zoom? All right, seeing none, we will move on to ARPA. So we're going to start just by going through all of the requests that currently have money out, just to go through them all and get a pretty thorough update on them all. So Municipal Building Design Committee, that's the first one. That came in at under $40,000, so there's $40,000 that we'll have to reallocate. And they have interviews on November 18th. Anything that you want to add for that one?
Yeah, so the interviews are likely going to get pushed back about 2 days to the 20th. But in our format, the intention was to bring them under contract by the end of November, so that way our kickoff meeting is December the 2nd. So we've already qualified this vendor in terms of minimum qualifications, and the interviews, you know, while important, and they could be a disqualifier, but I don't think that we have that expectation.
Okay.
So I fully expect that the 40,000 will be returned.
And is the cost set in stone with that at this point?
The cost is set in stone, 185.
All right, cool. Any discussion on that one? All right, Water District, that's all set. Sewer Commission is all set as well. Public Library, exterior envelope. So there is some money left over. It was completed at 33,000, so there's 27,000 remaining, and we'll get into where that money could go. Proctor Memorial Garden, that's all set. There's $1 remaining. Teen Room came in at 100,000 or 107,000 was the estimate that we received this morning. Carter, after you talked to Chris, do you want to add anything on that?
Just that we're going through the process of getting them contracted. We've qualified the contractor. I don't expect anything to go awry. And we had other bidders, though they were higher should something go wrong here. But at this point, we're looking at about $107,000 without contingency. And we tried to provide for the fact that any change orders might happen post December 31, which means we've not allotted ARPA monies towards the contingency.
Yeah, we have some plans that could potentially take care of that as well, so we'll get to that after.
I do have a question, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
On this chart, which says over or under, is there any way I'm supposed to know which ones are over and which ones are under?
They're all under.
They're all under, yes.
They're all under, okay, there you go.
Yeah, we didn't update that. All right, where did I leave off? The teen room. So then Parks Commission, so we gave them $1 million. They are returning approximately $800,000. So the actual number is $799,750. And there are two contracts that they currently have. One is for, where is it on my sheet? Well, they total 200,000 and 250. So do you want to talk about the status of both of them and?
The only thing that could go wrong here is they're already under contract, so we'll have to issue contract amendments. There are some outstanding bills, they've only given us verbals, which we would charge against the town meeting warrant article.
Any questions on that one?
Yeah,
And we've tried not to charge any more against the town meeting warrant article, because again, if they have an extra cost post 12/31, we can't use monies on it. So, and originally they had like some contingency in there, so we're trying to preserve as much of the town meeting warrant article money for any possible extras that happen after the 31st.
what is the money being used for?
That's the OPM and the design contractor.
For the full project?
Yes?
I'll get you their design letters for
Yeah.
Tuesday evening. I'm sorry, I didn't think to bring them. What it's getting you is 60. So they have taken the project, excuse me, and broken it into multiple phases. 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and to be continued, I guess.
And is this
And
different than their
three.
initial phasing?
It is, yeah. This is new,
It's very much
actually.
different.
Yeah.
So their thought is to try to take the phases 1 and 2 to a 60% design. No outline specifications, because for the most part, it's earthwork. There's not a lot of takeoff that has to be done in terms of, square yards of drywall and framing and everything else. And they've gone to trying to use what I'm gonna call, for the sake of the easiest term, modular buildings. Instead of building a new concession stand from framing, buying it prepackaged, so they can have that estimated ahead of time. So you'd get 60% design, you would get the estimates, cost estimates for that. You would get the design meetings, a couple of public presentations and their attendance at the town meeting. If everything goes right, you would get a second cost estimate to take a squint at what the first cost estimator did, just to try to have a check and recheck on those numbers.
Is there any possibility that the $200,000 will not be expended?
I cannot envision that. Assuming, we've asked Chris Ruth to ask as in-house project manager and to really stay on top of this for us. I think that the Parks Commission are really dedicated people, but they're not construction managers. And even with an OPM on staff, I don't see any risk of these monies not be expended. That's the best guess I can give you.
Any other questions on Marshall Park?
So that $200,250 will cover 60% of the design work for phases 1 and 2,
Yes. And a cost
and
estimate.
cost estimates and public presentation.
So public presentations. It will not give you outline specifications, which the OPM did not think was necessary, given the kind of work it was. So road work, I mean, you can pretty much, you know how much a foot of water line is gonna run, sewer line, that kind of thing. It's not a building. So if we follow that logic, I think they're safe doing that, particularly if we do a second check on that cost estimator. Especially given what happened last time around. I don't think we wanna have a redo of that.
So
So
how
have
do we
the
pay for
dueling
the
cost.
second cost estimation? Where's that
We-
coming from?
We'll take it out of the town's meeting article money.
So it wouldn't happen until after the annual town meeting.
No, you already have 184 you appropriated, there's 106
Okay,
that I'm told remains as of today. Now, against that 106, we've got some bills I don't have at hand yet that have to be paid. My best estimate from what they were telling me is around, I think it's around 36, because they billed, they're almost a month behind today. Their bills were as of October 15th. So they
They?
gave us
Who's they?
Scansa,
Oh, their design firm.
the OPM is Scansa,
Okay, okay.
and the design firm is RDLA.
Okay,
So we would pay their bills out of that, reserve the balance for any contingency, the $10,000. And if there's any overrun within this design contract, and the balance would be reallocated at town meeting.
so there's 106,000 of the 184,000 that was already appropriated last
That's the
town
numbers
meeting
I
or
was,
last year, I don't know.
23, I
Yeah,
believe.
okay.
That's the number I was given
Yeah, I think that's.
earlier today, yes.
Anything else on Marshall Park? All right. Then there's the Munis and the web deployment. So Ezzy reached out to try to get a quote for 2 years, pretty much. And I don't think we've received a response.
The person, he's tried a couple different
Yeah.
folks, the person he really has to deal with is on travel right
Mhm.
now. So as of today, we don't have that number. We did ask for, a 2-year price and would there be a prepaid discount? Don't have the number on that right this minute.
Mhm. So anything else to add on that one right now?
No, this is basically the 16 we had set aside for training, and the 92 would set aside for Harper's. So between this 108 plus some discount, they'll give us some credit for what we've been paying throughout the fiscal year. As he felt comfortable that this would cover the deployment, and I was, the chair was there, I tried to be clear about on-site discipline-specific training, not, watch a webinar or anything like that, that I really wanted, and I think we allocated an estimate of $1,500 a day for that.
Yes.
That may be a little bit light, but my guess would have been 2, but as he said, 1,500, so I think we should be reasonably good on that.
Any discussion on that one?
Yeah, so last week, it was roughly 126,000 for the first year. That included the 1-year annual license and the one-time setup fee.
But they're giving you credit for what you have given them for this contract year.
So what is that? We don't know the credit on that.
I don't know how much you paid, you contracts around 62,000, I believe,
Right.
so you get
Yeah,
credited roughly $5K a month.
So we don't have a number yet to deploy in the cloud for a 2-year contract.
No,
With
they've
training.
not sent us that yet. Nor if they would give us a prepaid credit.
But it's gonna be north of 120 anyway. I mean, well north.
Well,
It's
yes,
double. Probably 200.
2 years without prepay would be 226,
Well,
246, excuse me.
240, yeah, the one-time setup fee.
was like 26 or something.
Why do I have 66,000 written down as one-time setup?
That's what we pay now.
No, this was I have one-time setup fee next to my note. Anyway, so we don't know timing of rollout or anything, any details.
No,
So we don't know any more than we knew last
I
week.
had 66 for the setup, one-time setup too.
Yeah,
120, 298 annual,
Yes.
66K for one-time setup.
yeah, that's what I have.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
As I recall that conversation, I recall it was a credit and then, but maybe we just need some clarification on those costs.
Did the 108 come from Ezzy?
Yes.
That's his updated figure?
Yes. Well, what
For
I
one
said to him
year.
is, you had 92 and 16, that's 108.
Okay.
I want to make sure you're comfortable that this will get this here and get deployment and get on-site, discipline-specific training. And he was, we can go back again, but
That sounds really low.
Yeah.
Just looking at the numbers we talked about last week, even with the credit. How many months of credit are we talking about?
You-
July,
Does this run on a
January.
calendar year or fiscal year, this contract?
fiscal.
Fiscal.
So we're halfway through.
So
We'd be halfway
30K.
through.
But we were looking at 186?
For the year one, that's what my math says.
I just don't want to underfund it.
Yeah, but we still haven't even received
Right.
the
That's
amount,
weird,
so,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, this is,
Hopefully we can get a
This is
response
something we
soon though,
need.
because the person was out of office as of like yesterday, so hopefully by the end of the week they can respond. So that we would know going into Tuesday.
Can you provide us with the estimates or the quotes that he's receiving too, so we can see the
Sure.
actual?
We'll have them for you Tuesday night. Well, we'll have them in your package for Tuesday night.
Alright, so are we all set to get all the information for Tuesday for that one? Okay. Up next is Fire EMS, the 2 IV pumps. So it was $7,500 requested and there's a balance of $292. The furniture for the public safety day room came in at exactly $20,000, so that was even. Historical Society tree removal, there's a balance of $59.24. DPW garage floor replacements came at $60,000. The contract is $59,000, but we need to build in a contingency for that. We'll cover that after we go through all the projects. Same thing for the partial roof replacement. So the contract's at $55,000. DPW tree removal, $25,000. And then Council on Aging, the kiosk and Adirondack chairs, there was a balance of $90,000. So I'll pause at this point. Are there any questions?
$90?
$90. Apologies, what, I don't know what I said.
90,000.
Oh, no, sorry.
so did you say the DPW partial roof came in at 55?
Yes.
So we have an extra 10,000 there.
But that's the contingency that we're building in.
Well,
We
one,
won't know what kind of damage we have till we strip the roof. And what Chris is more concerned about is the fascia boards. And we won't know what kind of rot, if any, sits behind that until we remove the fascia boards and can see the tails of all the roof rafters.
Is this the old part of the building, not the addition?
It's to the right of the director's office.
I started in that building, I remember getting it last time.
so, I mean, the risk here between these two, one's almost $1,000, the other one's 9,000-ish. So we'll say 10, but between the two, that's 10,000, that if contingent funds aren't needed, then those funds won't be expended. Or is there another funding source for that $10,000, so that way we don't have to put it as a contingency?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna get into all that.
yeah, I've tried to account for that.
So,
It's a little bit of moving the pea under the shell.
Why don't we just jump into that?
Yeah,
So, alright, so we're gonna go to this sheet now?
I mean, before,
so before we leave that sheet, if we can just
Yeah.
finish. So the idea is that you take the excess 12, you take 15,000 left of the library.
Yeah. I'm gonna cover all of this right now. Yeah.
You wanna just,
well, I mean, I had a question on this sheet, which was just,
Yeah, these two
Yeah.
things are bleeding into each other, so let's just talk about all of it and then we can go for questions. So the first thing, right, that we need to do is to reallocate surpluses that we currently have, including those ones, to cover the capital overruns that we know about right now, and that's the town hall and the senior center roofs. So that includes the 40,000 for municipal buildings, the 15,000 of the library envelope, that Carter was just mentioning, the IV pumps, the Historical Commission tree removal, the kiosk and chair, and the Proctor Memorial Garden. And that's a total of $55,000, sorry, clearly can't say numbers today, $55,442.24. And that is going to go into those capital projects. So Carter, do you wanna cover that?
So we had a $62,000 budget on the library, or excuse me, the town hall roof, but the contract itself is $95,000. We had a $35,000 budget on the senior center roof. The contract is $40,000. And we won't know anything until we get those, we won't know anything more until we get them opened up. For instance, on the town hall roof, it calls for pointing the chimneys. When we start to get into them, if they start to fall apart, we're gonna actually have to take them down and bring them back up. Same with the roofing. We won't know if we have any problems with the decking or with the trim boards until we get the roof off and we start to see what's going on. So the idea is to apply the $55,400 against those two capital projects. And that might leave a few dollars in each of those capital programs, which then would be reallocated to other future capital projects.
And then there's also 12,000 from the library envelope, and then 13,000 that's left over from the teen center. One way that we can deal with those potential contingencies is by taking that money and putting it into the DPW tree removal. So that if any issues come up after December 31st, which at that point we won't be able to reallocate any ARPA funds, we can simply transfer that money within our budget to facilities that can then address whatever shortfalls might come about after December 31st.
And that's, Tom, how we've tried to account for post-12/31 contingencies while minimizing risk. And as I say, it's a little bit of moving the pea into the shell. And, you know, as these contracts, the roofer wants to get in there next week, next Friday. I believe I was told next Friday. So if he's out of there in a week, you know, in 2 weeks, we might have more answers. Each one of these contracts will unfold and we'll know better as we get deeper into each one.
So what's the latest that you think we could do that reallocation?
Confirming, these are all capital that we're talking about right now. The library envelope, the teen center, and the DPW tree, those are capital items we're talking about moving money around.
So the two CIPC allocations that you made are the town hall roof and the senior center roof.
Okay.
Those are both short of money. And
These
we're
are
talking,
surpluses.
Yes.
Right, I'm just.
And these,
Sure.
and they're gonna
So-
cover these three on the, these items
Yeah.
on the bottom.
Right,
so
so
there's-
they're capital.
Right.
So the ones with the bullet points, because I heard you mention the teen center and the envelope. Those are current ARPA projects. So the two capital projects are the town hall and senior center roofs. So the top block that you're looking at on that sheet, those are the ARPA projects that are going to potentially, we're proposing, be reallocated to cover the shortfalls of
Right.
those two capital projects.
So you're gonna take we're proposing taking those remaining, the 12 and the 13,
Mm-hmm.
putting them into the ARPA DPW tree so then we can reallocate.
that gives you
The-
50,000 for that. So instead of Bill spending 25,000 ARPA and 25,000 out of his operating budget, he spends all 50 out of ARPA. That leaves the 25 sitting there,
So we're not moving ARPA funds into the budget, we're reallocating
Yes.
ARPA, got it.
and then we're reallocating possibly.
So that's an easy way to, first of all, avoid losing that money, but then also still have it available to address shortfalls if they arise after we're not able to reallocate ARPA anymore. So I know that's kind of confusing, so I'll just pause right there. Where are you guys feeling about that?
It's not confusing.
Well, my only question is, what did the town council, with the I don't have any problem with doing it, but with the tree removal and doing that allocation of money and your intention of it, is it safe within the ARPA rules?
I will get you the formal email, if you will. We no longer get these nice long legal opinions. Once you declared the money as lost revenue, you were allowed to spend it on anything that you could legally spend money on, except 3 basic categories. You could not put it into debt payments, you could not put it into OPEB, and you could not put it into reserve funds. But we'll get you that for Tuesday night.
And that applied to us because we received less than 10 million.
The reason you can't put it in those things is because, well, for obvious reasons, what they didn't want to have done.
Park it.
But to say, the town allocated this money for tree removal, and now we're gonna put this money in extra for tree removal, but we're gonna spend this money first, so we can use this money later. You start going in front of people who do this for a living, I wanna be absolutely
We
covered.
will get you that for Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is a challenge because we have to deal with the possibility on some of these projects that there are change orders that happen after 12/31. And there's only 2 ways to do that. Well, there's 3. The first is something like this.
Mhm.
The next is to find it within the regular operating budget. And I don't think our facilities budget has that kind of money in it. Or to go to the finance committee for a transfer, but they can only transfer within the operating budget itself. They're not supposed to transfer out of the emergency fund for capital projects and the like.
Right.
So we're trying to keep the amount as small as possible. And you know, if we have great luck and all these things get done pre-12/31, then we can just simply do the journal entry that we need to make it all
Okay.
come back to the norm.
Like I said, I'm not against it, I just want to be covered.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. All right, cool. So we'll get that from town council and have it for Tuesday. So that covers any other discussion on that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what if the contingencies come in for the 2 roof projects, I'll call them, come in less than 55,000? Let's take the glasses half full view, and they open up the roof, hey, there's not as much damage as we thought, we don't have as much overage.
Depending on where I am in the timeline, I simply pay more against those projects out of the ARPA monies to fully expend that, and that leaves more behind in the appropriations you made at town meeting.
That's the same
Right, it
situation.
is,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay. And, well, if it comes over, yeah, it comes over. I mean, ARPA or no ARPA, we're in the same boat.
I'm trying to, we've got a
There's
risk.
no magic bullet.
If-
I know.
Yeah, I mean, we got a risk of if we don't spend it, we lose it.
I know, I don't wanna lose a nickel.
But if we go over on some of these projects post 12/31, we don't have money
I
to
know.
cover that contingency.
Yep.
Once we lost that interest money.
So,
Well, there is, of course, there is other ways to do it, which is the capital projects, while they're waiting now, and I'm for the contingency, we can certainly, if we allocate this in a different way, and the capital projects are not fully funded, we can go in and ask for more money for the annual town meeting, and just you get extra funding that way. So there are ways, there are other alternatives too. Again, I'm not saying what is favored or not, but that is a possibility.
you said one of these projects is supposed to start next Friday?
The senior center roof.
So we should have an answer, if that in fact does start Friday, we should have an answer relatively
think
soon,
we do.
this month, I would hope.
I would
we have
say, I
issues?
would say weather allowing, they don't have all their submittals in yet.
Yeah, watch, it's gonna
hopefully.
rain for the next month, has it rained?
So, remember, there's a formal process of sending those submittals in and getting them approved, which there's not a lot on this particular project. So let's say that they can get started on that Friday, and then weather stays good, we should be in and out in under 7 days.
Okay, so we've got that one. We'll know where we lie with contingency. What about town hall?
Town hall roof, we don't have it under contract yet. We will have it under contract in time. That is the one that I'm more afraid of, because you've got those two chimneys. No one's been in a boom truck inspecting those. So the only thing we know about those chimneys is what they look like from the outside, that the, I don't even remember what that arch cap is called anymore. We know we've got to rebuild that. And we know we took a mortar sample, I had Chris take a mortar sample from inside to have that lab tested, because you need the new mortar mix to mimic the old mortar mix, or it can cause damage to the brick if it's not done right. That's all we know. But you get somebody up there, a boom truck, and they start to grab it, it starts coming apart, all of a sudden, tearing one of those things down below the roof line and bringing it back up. That's a pretty good number.
Michael Ray, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I agree with Tom's concerns on the how this money is moving, so I look forward to that response. My question, which wasn't answered by the second sheet, was, you know, we had additional ARPA allocations for DPW, ambulance, Boys and Girls Club, Lions, that's not noted here. So all those additional allocations that we committed, are we 100% that they've all been expended, there's no overages, no under, because they're just not mentioned?
With one exception, we're very comfortable that everything's committed. The only exception is, we have asked the cultural council, they have some artists. They've said they're under contract. We've asked for copies of those contracts so we can have them in the file. My intent is by 12/31 to have every single contract fully vetted and in, I'm a paper guy, 3-ring binder somewhere that we can just go and lay our hands on.
Have you contacted them?
Yes.
Okay, because they're meeting tonight.
Yeah,
Okay.
What would be-
about a week ago, I think it was.
Okay.
What would be helpful to me is if we had, like, similar to how you formatted this list with like the partial ARPA committed list, it would be helpful if we had the full
Sure.
committed list and just kind of what the status is on everything else, so that way, that would just be helpful.
Sure.
Yep. Reasonable.
So, where we're at right now, I just wanna make sure I fully comprehend, is the total, you know, with what is shown here in this partial list, is that there is an overage, and that roughly 54,500 or 55,000. Not sure why there's a disconnect between these two. Can you explain that real quick?
Sure. So if you take the contracts and you take a 10%, we need $54,500. We have $55,442.24, and my mind works and just move it, and we'll expend the 55 on those projects.
Okay, and then those remaining funds, we're to commit those funds to the tree removal plan with the understanding that that creates additional capacity within the budget. What about the?
If we need it, I mean, if we get some of these things knocked off, we may say to Bill, time out. You're still only getting 25 from us, because you're still spending 25 out of the town money, which then helps alleviate yours and Tom's concern to some degree. But we have to have a plan today.
And just to refresh my memory on this one, so we've been short-staffed. I'm assuming there's somewhat of a surplus in the staffing line items that we have throughout town, that we probably haven't expended as many dollars as we budgeted for. Why is that not an option?
Because, so you've been short-staffed in the assessor's office. No, you haven't. You had a consultant in there for a number of weeks, and instead of paying that person $27 an hour or whatever, you're paying them $60 an hour.
So you're saying it's a wash?
On a number of these departments, it's gonna turn out to be a wash. The vacancies in the sewer department accrue to the sewer enterprise fund. They can't flow back.
Yeah.
So by the time you go through there, there's not the kinds of dollars there that I think you might believe there are.
All right, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I would anticipate that we might have 25 grand though, between those two. I mean, between the police department having, being down an officer, changing, I don't remember what the difference in compensation.
But you're not down because you had a substantial payout to the retirement person
Got it.
for the vacation and everything else that they took with them on their way, which was their contractual benefit. So you paid out a pro rata Quinn, and then we paid out, I can't remember how much vacation, but it was substantial.
And sick time.
Yeah. So often, these things do not end up at the end of the day resulting in that much left on the table.
If Izzy can get some clarity on that one, that would be helpful too. Or Nancy or whoever.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion on the surpluses and one potential plan of how we might move it around? All right, so the next thing that we're obviously gonna have to do, which is an even bigger focus, is that we need to reallocate the park money. So that's $799 and $750, not say numbers tonight. So we can allocate that by using our emergency backlist that we tasked Carter to put together of simple one-time purchases.
But, Mr. Chair, before we get there, so if I can just go back to a previous question.
Sure.
So, and I'm just trying to get an understanding, because I mean, basically what we're being asked to allocate is about 800,000.
Yep.
Previously, we had allocated about 350,000, which was the interest. You had mentioned that you believe strongly you've accounted for that, but I don't see where we have an overage of about 350 grand.
The interest was never committed by this group. It was always held below the line as a potential contingency and potential future expenditures.
No,
I
we
thought it
went through a
was.
whole process and we committed about 300-something thousand dollars.
That's the monies that were available, but it did not include the interest.
I thought that's exactly what we were doing.
No.
As I remember.
I
when
feel like that
asked-
final number included interest, when we were going through.
Yes.
That wasn't the interest number,
But
but my
since then-
understanding was that it did include interest. Because I specifically remember from one meeting to the other, there was an increase in the amount that Heather added the interest to.
Yeah.
There was at least one meeting where we added
Yes.
interest. I don't know if we added all
And
of
was
it.
that included in the amount, total amount that we ended up allocating? That's the question.
'Cause-
But even, there should be interest since then.
Right, that's what I'm saying, I think
But you
that,
can't use it at all.
But I understand that that's the email you sent to us earlier, that that's I saw that in the drive, it was clear as day, that was the short response that came back from DOR, that interest goes to the general fund. My recollection.
oh, was that what the final response? I didn't.
Oh, I thought that was after the December 31st, it went to general fund, any unused interest.
No, all the interest that we.
All
So
the
then how would we allocate the
And
interest
that's-
before?
right.
And so we had a meeting over, I thought it was, I don't remember the dates, but I recall us discussing reallocating $350,000. And and roughly, and we did it. And we'll have to find the dates in the drive, and it was strictly the interest. We accumulated about 300 grand in interest. And then,
118 at the time of the report.
Yeah, that wasn't all
Yeah,
interest, but it
that
didn't,
strikes me as about the right numbers, 120-ish.
Yeah.
was that what it was? I mean, Renee, you helped out with these spreadsheets that we did.
This was last,
Yeah, it was in the spring.
yeah.
this year.
Yes.
I'm looking in the ARPA folder now to see if I can find it, because I even have a memory going back, I thought earlier than that, but.
Alright, so we'll really have to look into that and make sure that we're, first of all, understanding how much interest there is and whether or not it was allocated
Right, how much there is, based upon the DOR email that we've gotten, and state guidance in 2 other states, who are our neighbors, is that the interest goes to the general fund.
So this should be easy to reconcile for anybody who goes back to it, because we have a number from ARPA. That number obviously has not been added to from
No.
the federal government.
Yeah.
So whatever that number is, you're saying that's what we have.
I'll go back to the September allocations, I believe it was September, when we did round 2 of the reprogramming.
All right.
See, I'm going back to when we did a round with Heather.
Yeah, I'll
That's
have to-
what I remember.
Let me pull up my phone and actually look at these emails to get the dates.
We may have allocated that.
That's what I'm
I'm
I
saying,
feel
I
like.
think,
Yeah.
I think the 120-ish is,
If
because
if
we
you
talked about
allocated
adding.
that prior to me being
Yeah.
with you,
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
I am gonna
That's
have to go
correct.
back
All right.
and tear that apart.
That's what I'm
We're gonna
thinking.
have-
We're gonna have to go back to what was the original allocation and rebuild that for you.
Correct.
All right, so we're gonna have to figure that out and subtract whatever interest that needs to be unallocated before we really move forward with any reallocations, just so we know how much the
We'll have
number
to
really
rebuild it
is.
from scratch if that's what you believe you did.
I'm certain, because I remember from one meeting to the other, the number that we were allocating changed to include interest.
Correct.
Yeah,
We'll go back and rebuild it from scratch.
okay. So, plus or minus $800,000 is where we're at right now. Obviously, potentially minus, not plus. Look, I'm not saying that we should reallocate things tonight. Obviously, the more we wait, the riskier it gets. But I did go through here and just plugged some in with this emergency list that we have, so I can get as close to the number as it currently exists. And I got about 3,000 to it. So you guys can look through that and digest it all you want. I guess I'll ask you guys, are we comfortable with going off of this emergency list that we have for those funds?
I am.
Are these all new? Because Carter mentioned us, again, backfilling and purchasing things that we've already agreed upon in prior capital purchases that we haven't received yet. So I just want to know what these are.
So that idea, I thought came off the table when we had our last discussion. I talked about the trucks and I talked about the paving program.
Right.
And given the reaction of the board, I've taken that idea off the
Right.
table.
I
So I
didn't,
think-
I
So
don't
with
remember,
the
I remember the
exception-
paving being taken off because of the same principle with the tree removal, but I didn't think that the trucks were taken off.
No, so with the exception on this particular list of the, where is it? The cabling project, the school's 9/11 cabling project, everything else would be new prospective purchases. The cabling project has already been accomplished. Hopefully they haven't paid for it. But we'd have to do a journal entry to swing the money in there.
This is based off of the discussion and guidance that we gave about identifying quick one-time purchases with things that we have a specific dollar tag associated with. So that's how this was generated.
So the 911 cabling, because this was brought up at the school committee meeting last week or whenever the last one was. I think they may have paid for it, and the question is, because they had no choice, right? I mean, it had to be done, kind of thing. The question is, can we, I don't know what to call it, back with ARPA, I don't even know if it's ARPA eligible, because if it is paid for,
That becomes a matter of personal philosophy. Whether, if they haven't paid for it, we can just pay for it. That's simple. If they have paid for it, we'll have to do it as a journal entry. We'll charge ARPA and credit back the account.
this sounds like the other situation.
Yeah, this
Like,
would be
we're
a
not-
situation, if we
it's
paid
shell
for
game
it,
that
I
we're
would not
not-
be for it.
We're not sure if we can do it, right?
I understand your
Yeah.
level of discomfort.
My understanding is that we can, as Carter's saying, and I am more comfortable with projects that, were completed recently. But Cesar, I was looking through my phone. I missed your question that you got us started with. Were you asking us Can you just restate what the task at hand is right now?
We're just talking about this list and whether or not we're comfortable using this to go off of as we reallocate the $700,000 or $800,000 that we have to reallocate.
Okay.
Do we have a spreadsheet of all of the projects that were
Yeah.
before us? Because I don't have that with me. I don't know if it's on.
A spreadsheet of all the projects before us, what do you mean by that?
Unfunded.
The one, yes,
Are
your,
there
your
options?
proposal, this is your
Yeah.
proposal, I'm assuming CN is you, that came from a subset, this is a subset of things that are of a whole
This
list
was
of.
the emergency list, which was separate from that list per our discussions.
Right, but
Identified
is that
one time.
available tonight? I mean,
I didn't bring it with me, no.
I don't have a spreadsheet of it, I thought the chair was doing that.
Yeah.
But I
It's
can
in the
certainly
drive if you
generate
wanna
that
go back.
tomorrow. I think we sent you all these, but I can generate that for you tomorrow, Tom.
yeah.
So
Like,
you have all
I
the
came here
basic
straight from
ones.
work, so I
Yeah.
didn't go for any of my stuff at home.
We have all the requests that have come in, but I feel like there are other requests that
These are
were on the
also-
list that we didn't prioritize, that I wonder if is there something there that could also be ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go to the Historical Society and give them $20,000, they're gonna spend that money before the end of the year. I think, you know, if you go to the Boys and Girls Club and you know, we underfunded them and provide them with 50 grand, it will get expended. So I do think that I do understand that what we have here is an emergency list that that Carter prepared, that was, you know, reaching out to departments, kind of identifying what's ready to go, how can we get this money expended? But I think that there are other things that maybe aren't on this list that could also.
Yeah, I'd like to have a complete list
Yeah.
and identify, these are the ones that are options, that are ready to go now.
Yeah, we can expand it.
And I can look in the email thread and see what the last
Yeah.
time I had an email about the
There's
full list on
there's
it.
so many
It's from
sheets in
August.
here.
I can give you a list of what we requested, but I have to suggest that they're not all ready to go.
So just the ones that are ready to go, ones that have been requested and are ready to go.
So we have projects that are requested, bids are coming in December 3rd. Frankly, I can't consider them ready to go, because one bid protest throws the halt of 45 days on it immediately for the state to investigate it. So those make me very nervous.
Which
August 13th, 2024.
I'm not so much projects, I'm very, I want like catalog number, an item that, you know, purchase, a hard thing, submit your order, put it in cart, order now, those kinds of things.
Did you not get this last week with your,
Yes,
It's in
but,
front of them, but I
but
think what
there's-
they're saying
there's
is
more
that they
beyond
want to
that.
include more. So can
I
you be
think-
specific with things
This
that
is
you
all
want
of
to
it, but
include
we
in
won't
this
put-
that's maybe not on
we'll
there?
put it into a spreadsheet.
I don't know, I remember Boys and Girls Club had a vehicle, had a van,
21st, August 21st is our.
as an example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else was on that list,
If we're
because,
going back to the round 2 request, that's a different list I'd have to reproduce for y'all.
Sounds like they want to.
Well, we can pull it up right now.
I mean,
there's some
initially,
things
from
that
the
are
things on your
straightforward.
list here, the only objection I have would be the 911, anything that is
Yeah.
potentially paid for, that would be one, and then the COVID payments, again, this is something that's come up in the past, that,
I wasn't on the board when it came up in the past. Do you want to mention?
well, it was one of the first things that was proposed, and it was voted against to put that out there, but,
Okay.
Yeah, at that time, I think I was the only member that supported it. It was 4-1.
Okay.
That it was overwhelming, that the
Yeah.
board did not want to, at that time, commit those funds for that purpose. But I think, the situation's a little different today.
I'll just point out too, it's the easiest and quickest way to get it out the door.
well, we could put the money in, put the money in a pile and throw a big bash for everybody on December 31st too, but, I'm not looking for ways to expend money, I'm looking for ways that save people money for the town that we'd have to get anyway. I'm also questioning why the COVID payments are $250,000 here, but they're only come out to $200,000 here.
Yeah, I was gonna cover that, but basically the short version of it is that I wanna really cement the numbers. So if we were to go forward with it, I want to double, triple check, have department heads also check that the people who are receiving them, that we're not missing anyone essentially. So that's why I added just some padding, basically like, hey, let's just set aside this amount for it to make sure, if we were to reallocate anything tonight, which doesn't sound like we are, then
Well, it
that
sounds
would
like
have
we
been my
can.
request.
I mean, there's certain things here that I think are gonna be
Yeah.
non-controversial, but I think we're having a conversation that's, we're hitting a lot of different stuff, but.
I mean, the Munis isn't on here. We don't have a number yet. The Turkey Hill vestibule, I'm nervous about that actually being able to get done this year. I think school committee is equally nervous being able to complete that.
So that have to be
December 31st.
completed. It has to be committed, right,
whatever.
right, okay.
So one of the
But-
changes, Renee, along those lines is that previously when the Attorney General or the whatever it is for the state, when it was over 50 grand, it used to be like just the material cost and labor cost material. So it was like a difference in how you looked at, procurement and from the state level. But now the understanding is 50 grand is like this super trigger. So I am a little worried about anything over 50,000 that's not a purchase.
The
Because
school committee was also a little uneasy, like, yeah, we really want it, but they understood there's risk. And right now I'm so risk averse that, because we're coming up against a deadline. Let me ask, here's one item, the middle high school auditorium booth updates. Is that,
We're gonna have to go back to them all
Could
and
that-
get
is
updated
that-
information
I don't
from them.
remember the details, is that something that has to go out to
Again, is
bid
it-
and the whole
Probably.
thing, or is that
It's
just
done on the
equipment?
list.
That's on our
From our
round two
August
from
list.
August.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm
Things like
saying
that.
is
Probably
that
not ready to
we're-
go.
Let's just hit pause for a second. If we wanna revisit those, then we're gonna have to really go through the list and make sure that, one, they're not gonna have to go out to bid, and we have an up-to-date cost on what it is. If we wanna do that, we can. Carter, what do you think? Is that reasonable to get all
I
that
will
done
do
by
whatever
Tuesday?
the board tells me. By Tuesday? Hell no. I can't get that done by Tuesday. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, we've filmed for less than 2 weeks. We'll try our best.
Here's another one to look into, the Bright Eyed Weekend Food Kit Program. We funded
we
that,
ended up
right?
We
supporting
funded
that,
that.
yeah. Less than their request, but that's another thing that, given what they do, if you give them another 15 grand, it will
It's
get
kids,
expended.
right?
Yeah. So for tonight, Mr. Chair, is your hope for us to go through this request list and kind of see where we have agreement tonight?
Yes.
Honestly, I don't know what I didn't play with trucks as a kid. I don't know what some of these things are from DPW. I don't know the value. I don't know how they're used. Do we need them?
Can I just say that it would be a great help to us if we just knew if these reallocations, subject to talking with, getting something from town council to address the concern. If we just knew that we had this money towards the capital projects, as a start, this would be very helpful because I've got 2 projects that are about to start that I don't have sufficient money for right now. I cannot sign that roof contract for town hall unless this money is reallocated.
So you are talking about this sheet with these two,
Yes.
yeah, I'm
If we
fine
can
with
get that
those.
done as a start, that would be very
You
helpful.
want me to just make a motion?
Or the first one pending town council review and the second one into tree removal.
Do you want me to make a motion?
I think they both depend on town council review, right? Because they're
No,
both playing the
no.
same.
No, not the first
So
one. The first
they
one
are
just-
not. So the first
First
one's
one's just a
going into
reallocation.
capital
Oh.
projects. The second one goes into the operating budget of the tree removal.
Yes, but
Which-
The
this,
first one is just an allocation of things that are ex surplus.
Yeah.
but,
Into capital projects, which is a distinction as opposed to the tree removal.
but if the
I can't.
capital,
I'm sorry.
no, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. If the capital projects don't need that 55,000 contingency, if it comes in at 40,000, we're saying we're gonna take the other 15,000 of ARPA and then free up 15,000 of capital, which is the same thing that we're
Prohibited.
proposing to do with the 25,000 to go towards DPW for tree removal.
I can't sign a library contract without a contingency.
No, that's fine. I just want, but it's the same question of, can we move the ARPA money that way?
No,
The
it's
question is
different.
only regarding the second one,
Then
going
explain
into
it to
tree
me.
removal.
Right, it's different, the first one is different
Because
because,
it's going to capital projects.
right, it's going to a project that isn't even started and it's done as contingency. And as long as we know what the contingency might be, which we may not, before December 31st, we'll be able to shift it into anything.
Okay, if we
like-
know before
like the
December
pantry.
31st.
If we know that. If it's not and it falls short after December 31st, then that's
Then we move
that's
the
just the
money.
way.
No?
Yes, but we did the project.
Yeah.
Right now, if we don't do it, we don't even do the project.
Right.
So that's a risk that I'm willing to take because we have to get the project done. It's 3 years overdue.
Are you asking for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I'm asking for a motion on the first one, not the second one.
I move to reallocate surpluses to cover capital overruns as presented.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. And the second one, we will revisit on Tuesday, pending town council's review. Because that one's going into tree removal, which is an operating budget.
Do you understand
That's
I
the
cannot
clarification.
sign the library contract until I know I have a
Can we
contingency?
make a motion to pass?
Contingent
pending?
upon town council's review? Would that be beneficial, Carter?
I can wait.
Well, I think we want me to make them, are we comfortable with the motion contingent upon review, or do we want to wait till Tuesday?
Tom, I will defer to your opinion on that one. What do you think?
When are you going to sign it? If we would agree with this right now, when are you gonna sign it?
Well, if it's contingent on town council review, I can't sign it till I have town councils.
Yeah.
If it's gonna wait till Tuesday, I can't wait till Tuesday. So I would just prefer that I get town council's opinion in
Yep.
front of you, so it's clear cut.
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Carter. All right. So is there anything on this list that we're willing to, I mean, not even reallocate tonight, that's fine, but, or do we wanna wait until we get a bigger list?
Well, I mean, I think there's some questions out here tonight, but I think some of these things are to me, gonna be pretty straightforward to run through. And, I see your proposals, but, I without even looking at them, so I'll go ahead and look at my sheet that doesn't have them on them. I think the body camera upgrades are pretty straightforward. The letter that was in there was pretty clear. We purchased a new ambulance that came with this new power stretcher, and the old ambulance does not. And so, this is a pretty clear request, so that way, it doesn't matter which ambulance you use. And it, I think, has a lot of, knowing what the equipment is, it certainly decreases risk for injury. So that's pretty straightforward to me. I think the replacement of 15 radios is pretty clear. And and let me go to the next one, I think is pretty clear. So that's the first three. And then, what was the next one? The mini excavator that's being requested seems pretty clear. The trailer for it seems pretty clear. Those costs are consistent with what I believe to be normal from my own experience. And then we said that we're not going to support the 911 cabling due to those concerns, so I'll skip on that. I do support the pickup truck with a plow, and I think that's probably it. That seems clear to me. And that was the first three or the police requests, the first two fire requests, and then the mini excavator, the trailer for it, and then the pickup truck with plow for the.
So I understand why Turkey Hill vestibule might not be clear for you. What about the other three three that's on here, the window, film?
I support all of the school's requests, to be quite blunt, but
Oh.
I think that there's a question that we have out of how much money do we really have to allocate
Yes.
tonight, and so I want to make sure we're nowhere near that amount. But
Yes.
yeah, the window safety film seems really clear to me too, for what they're trying to get done there. I've shared that I was a trained physical security officer with the military, and I did a walkthrough of the schools, and it's needed. So I fully understand that and agree with it. And I do support the fire alarm request, but I am concerned about their ability to get $384,000 on a contract within the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, and it's also almost 400 grand, so you would certainly have to remove some of the requests that you just said you supported too.
Not necessarily,
Yeah.
because we're not, I think with what I just said, we're only at about 500, so we're still low enough.
For me, the most important thing, I want to be able to select from a list where everything from the department heads have determined, not a question, but have determined beyond any doubt that these can go and ready to go as soon as we allocate the money.
Carter,
That's what I want to be able to choose from.
I think the police and fire and DPW have given
I
us.
think a lot of, I think probably you're right.
Carter, you raised your hand.
So, first I want to point out that the fence for the generator was actually part of the original bid. You just didn't have enough money to do it. So that is a change order to an existing contract we could do easily.
Okay.
Now let me tell you my plan on all the equipment. Once I know where I think the board is headed, my intent is to say to the department heads, I got some good news, I got some bad news. The good news is you're on a list of maybes. Once you bring back to me revised quotations from all the vendors that are good for 45 days, we would then release them in tranches as we see how the balance of the budget develops.
I think that might take a lot of time though, Carter. If your department heads are already saying that we can, I agree with generally what you're saying, but I think tonight, if your department heads are already saying these are ready to go, and I think that that's the correspondence I read. To me, I'm okay saying 45,000 for body cameras, and I think the maybes are what's kind of left over. Are we sure that these things are good to go?
I have a quote that expires on 29 December 2023.
For which one? Yep, and I backhoed it and make it to my list.
I have, and that's just quite possibly a typo. I have quotes that are October 4. They're already 40+ days out. So, yeah, it's a pain to have them go back, but I don't think that the safety, I'm concerned about safety, having a method so that every penny's spent, but we don't overcommit, because if we somehow overcommit, so if we undercommit, we lose the money. If we overcommit, or we have problems with contingencies post 31, it's a very delicate balance.
Yeah, but I think what I'm thinking of is that, we're getting ready to hit Thanksgiving. If we give authorization tonight for body camera upgrades and they come in at 47, I'd much rather have a conversation on Tuesday about $2,000 than to be awarding things next Tuesday, knowing that now the next week is everyone's on vacation and we're really not getting these answers till December.
Whatever the board directs.
That's why funding the heavy vehicles that we have not received yet, I don't know how that, I did not get the feeling that was off the table. And again,
What do you mean by that?
well, Carter said that we talked about that and it was off the table, that we weren't gonna do that.
That was my impression.
I understand, that's what your impression was. I didn't feel that is the safe route.
Yeah.
We can dedicate any or all of that, and they're sizable. We don't even have to cover the whole thing. We can say we're gonna supplement.
It's $470,000 in about 30 days.
Right. So we can do that at any point because it exists already. So there is the absolute out for any money that we haven't gotten from. That's clear because we haven't paid for it, and it'll just free up capital money from other articles from previous town meetings. There's absolutely no doubt that we can do that in my mind. So there is no reason, aside from allocating something that has contingencies and we don't use the contingencies and we don't know about them before December 31st, there's no other reason we will lose any money. So, with that in mind, I mean, any of these larger projects, again, your list, except for the two that I suggested, I'm not against, but I mean, there's big items also in there that if we can get them and we have quotes for them, they're gonna come out of capital anyway, so
Right.
people are gonna wind up, town people are gonna wind up funding them, maybe not all of them, but probably at least half of them,
Yeah.
of those 6-digit figures.
All right, Carter, so what's on your mind right now? Do we
I'm
want
just
to?
awaiting direction of the board.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there's a lot that we want to still consider. We're not gonna be able to make decisions on it tonight, and we're gonna have to basically rework this list a little bit and then go back to it on Tuesday. That's sort of my takeaway from
Because
this.
I haven't really said much, but I'm supportive
Yeah.
of moving forward with your list as you proposed with the two, more discussion on the COVID payments, just because I am in support of that, but looking at the actual numbers, and I agree, I don't think we should pay for the 911 cabling project.
Yeah.
As it's already been completed, but I'm comfortable moving forward with these items myself.
I do also really wanna understand the interest too and be careful of not over allocating this amount tonight, so.
Well, we're not over allocating anything because we
Yeah.
have $800,000.
Well, I mean, can we make a couple of commitments tonight just to move forward? Because I mean, I'm not in support of the full, because I think in the discussion, clearly there's more information that several of us are looking for.
Yep.
But I think some of these lower value items that, aren't gonna get us anywhere near 800 grand, I'm okay taking off. And now I'll look at your list, Caesar, and see. So, that would be, what is a stair chair? What is that?
That is a really important item that will save our public safety people's backs. It helps them move stretchers and people up and down stairs. There's a thing inside the,
Think of a wheelchair that literally can climb stairs.
yes.
It's like one of those triangular wheel arrangements,
Yeah,
I
and
think.
it's, there's a picture of it, I believe, inside the drive, but that is a request that I would fully support.
Okay, and then separately, Carter, you mentioned this fence for the generator and how it's separate from the generator.
It was add alternate to your generator bid,
Got it.
and you simply didn't have enough money to do it. And we've already received
The generator.
comments about how beautiful the generator is without a fence.
And also, it's not, the best to have it unexposed.
Which generator is this?
This is a council on
That's the
aging.
Okay, council, okay,
Or
senior
the,
center, because I'm looking at a generator that Caesar
Yeah.
is not funding, and then we see the fencing, okay, so they're not the same generators we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
They already have the generator, it's there, it's just the fencing that they have to have for
I would
it.
also suggest we add in that cement mixer, since we're taking out some of the bigger items, if it's under 5,000,
Where is it at? Oh, right.
underneath the
First,
stair.
The next one? All right.
Oh,
I'm just
yes.
doing some math.
Do we have up-to-date quotes for the fire equipment that's been requested? I know the camera's up to date, but what's the date on,
I'll have to check.
I know we got descriptions, did it actually?
This was from October 17th is when he sent them, so hopefully they're.
Yeah, I think these were presented to the, certainly the radios
The radio
were just
The police
presented to the capital
camera?
planning committee.
is,
But no, but the stair chair I don't think was.
Okay.
Okay.
so here's a screenshot, cost, installation total. See,
So-
like, there's no date on.
Well, just as a for instance, on the truck quote for the schools, just following up on this, I had this vehicle on reserve for you, but it is a 5-day business hold.
Yeah.
So we have to go back.
Yep. So, I mean, what I just added up was $375,565, and what that was from the request was the first 5 items, which is the body cameras through the stair chair. It was the excavator and the trailer, and it was a school pickup truck and safety film, and then I think I need to add in another 12,000 for that fence. So that's 387,565.
So on the fire equipment,
It's not a quote, right?
what we have is
Yeah,
catalog cut sheets. We don't
Yeah.
have the formal quote ready to be signed. And that's the kind of thing I'm saying I want to send the department heads back for. Schools, great. But the 5-day hold is gone, you need to get a fresh quote. The catalog sheet, listing price, great. But you need a formal quotation sheet that I can sign and stick in this, 3-inch, well, maybe it's 2-inch binder, but stick in this binder of contracts that we can hand to an auditor and say, see, all this was signed, sealed, and delivered
Yeah.
by the required date.
In fairness, though, I mean, I know that some of these are coming through from staff, you know, who don't procure like, so that may be why they just,
No, I mean, I don't have a problem with what they did.
yeah.
I'm just saying, some of it is stale.
Yeah.
Or needs to be
Yeah.
in a more formal fashion so we can actually sign it. Like the cabling, you know, now it's done, but all we have to do on that one, if they come, if this had happened ahead of time, would have been to sign it.
Yeah.
All right, so are you making a motion?
Sure. I just wanted to, I thought Amanda sounded, were we all generally in agreement?
Pending, I mean, getting the hard numbers, you know,
What would you like us to make?
Just
allegations
confirming.
tonight, or we wanna
I would
wait
just like,
for-
I would love a sense of direction.
So if we proceed with what I just suggested, which is pulling out and leaving enough surplus, so that way if we have to subtract what we think may be 120,000, we have it. We have flexibility for the truck that Tom Alonso mentioned. We have, Selectman Alonso mentioned, we have flexibility for potential COVID payments, so,
and Munis.
and Munis.
So
which
can you-
we already-
Can you go down your list
Yep.
again?
So it was the first 5 items, from body cameras, power stretcher and loader, replacement of 15 portable radios.
Hold on, the first five on the CN proposal list. you
No
said.
amount, the first 5 of the actual list.
To
Oh,
the
the
get,
actual
to the,
Disregard mine.
Wait,
Yeah.
the actual list.
No, it's this list. I'm just ignoring this. I'm looking at this. Ignore the C.
Okay, so you
just go by the
included-
type- go by the
Yep. So I'm
names.
looking, yep, I'll go by it. So on the list, ignoring what says C in proposal,
Okay.
police request, body camera upgrades, 45,000. Fire request, power stretcher and loader, 74,000. Fire request, replacement of 15 portable radios. Fire request, stair chair for 23,000. DPW request, gas powered concrete mixer, $4,720. DPW request, mini excavator, $72,500. DPW trailer for mini excavator, $14,700. Schools, pickup truck with plow, $64,780.05. Lunenburg Middle High School, window safety film, $26,865. And then Council of Aging, fence for generator, $12,000. And that comes to $387,565. Let me verify my math, and then I will say the motion.
But we don't have a, I think, is the excavator quote up to date? Is that one of the ones you said was 2023?
Yep. I think there may be modifications, but, I mean, realistically, you know, we might be 1-2%. And we'll have more information next week, because, you know, if someone says you're gonna get 75,000, but get me a quote by Tuesday, I would imagine we will have a quote by Tuesday.
You'd be surprised.
Expiration date December 2023 for the
Yep.
mini excavator.
I think that may just be a typo.
Maybe, hopefully.
All right, so you're verifying the math
So
first?
correct.
just so you understand, on top of that, we
Sorry.
need the actual state bid that they have. So we can go on Combis, confirm that, and print that out to attach it as part of our files, so we don't run into any procurement issues.
All right.
To make sure that this specific vendor is approved to sell these specific items in this specific geographic region in an amount that exceeds this specific order.
So I happen to know that this, the power stretcher loader is a proprietary equipment, and it's not on the state list.
See, that's the kind of thing I gotta go back in and
Yeah, I
check.
happen to know that. It's not, it's proprietary. But it is what we already have. So we purchased it before, but it is proprietary. Do you want me to make the motion? I move for the select board to allocate I move for the select board to commit $387,565 of ARPA funds for the purpose of purchasing body camera upgrades to the police department, $45,000, power stretcher and loader, $74,000, replacement of 15 portable radios, $50,000, a stair chair for $23,000, gas-powered cement mixer $4,720, mini excavator for $72,500, trailer for the mini excavator for $14,700, a pickup truck with plow for the school department for $64,780.05, Lunenburg Middle High School window safety film for $26,865, and a fence for the Council of Aging generator for $12,000.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. All right, so I just want to make sure I have our action items for Tuesday correct. We want to revisit all of the requests from August and get up-to-date numbers and statuses on whether or not those are projects that we can potentially fund and move forward with the current deadline that we have. Is that correct?
Only thing is unfunded requests, but yes.
Yeah,
That seems like an unrealistic request to have for Tuesday.
I would say
From
so
now.
too, but it seems
What?
like,
To have updated numbers from all the departments for Tuesday?
If they can, if they don't have them, they don't have them. But I'm okay
so
with
the
it.
request is to make an attempt at that.
The attempt,
We also-
the attempt I would like to see is
Yeah, I was gonna
a
add that
full
next.
reckoning of all the things, the money that was given to us, so we know the ARPA money that we have to deal with.
Yep,
And then all the things that were asked, whether they were gone forward or not, and then which ones went forward, and which ones were committed, so basically a whole accounting sheet of everything, so we can look at it in its entirety.
yep.
Concur.
That, we need clarification on interest, and, let's see, what else?
And the use of
What did I
that,
miss?
and the
Munis.
legal question about the,
Yes, town council,
the,
yeah,
the
Munis.
going into tree removal, munis as well. Alright, so I think we have a good idea of what we need to do for Tuesday.
And again, if, I get it, today's Wednesday. If people don't have information by Tuesday, I'm okay with that. But I think if there's and I don't wanna, put people through a fire drill, but if there's a best effort and it's potential that there are some of those things that, support the community that can be allocated, given funds for, then great. And if not, then we have an emergency list that clearly a lot of time went into kind of compiling. And we have I think our other backup plans, with a truck, that we had discussed previously. And I think the select board is open to that. Just like some of us are open to the COVID payment. So I think that, there's gonna be discussion between the two. That's how I
I'm
translate.
just trying to make sure we don't run short for any post-31 change orders,
Yep.
and we don't return any money.
Yep, I'm with you. And I think we should leave it to the department heads, I mean, put it on them, listen, you have bids, the people who have bids that are ready to go, that's who's gonna get the money, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Alright, anything else we're missing for action
Yeah, I
items
think
for
it's more
Tuesday?
reasonable to put it that way. I was
Yep.
thinking, I don't know, I was thinking just felt like overwhelming. Barbara was gonna have to do all these numbers.
No.
Anyway,
Right. No, I see what you're saying.
I think frankly, the larger issue is to go back through, rebuild the numbers, make sure that the interest is not in what you've already allocated,
Right.
so that we are comfortable with what we have yet to allocate. And to put everything that we got into a single spreadsheet.
Yeah.
We'll make comments, and we'll go back to the August lists and get them in as well.
Yeah, everything's there, we just need it.
If nothing else, hopefully Tuesday night I can just get a sense of direction for the next step.
I'm not sure, I don't think it's all there, because I just had to go digging. If Annie could move the things from like the August meetings from ARPA into the ARPA folder, so that when we can just look at it instead of having to dig through the prior meetings. I know she started doing that, but that would be helpful to be able to pull up everything from one location. I don't know if that's.
I have
feasible, but-
over 500 emails that have to be read and redacted for one public records request. And I have several phone calls from the Secretary of State about why we haven't provided those yet. Today, we just finished 148 emails, some of which the staff was able to redact on their own. and a substantial number of which I had to go through myself. That does not include the 3 other public records requests that are close to 575 emails. So we'll do our best, but I've gotta get some of this stuff pushed out, because having these conversations with folks in the Secretary of State's office is not the kind of thing I like to do when you're paying me to do other stuff. So Amanda, we'll do our very best.
No,
I mean, public records requests, are public in their nature, and, I don't believe in public shaming, but I think it would be helpful to know. I think the previous town manager mentioned it was like the same 3 people all the time. I think it would be helpful to know kind of what this load is, because it just seems a bit excessive that, we can't, it seems a bit crazy and excessive that we have a lot of things we need to get done. It's important for government to be transparent, but, 500 emails,
right, that has to happen because of deadlines, and then we can't get
yeah.
this stuff done. That's frustrating.
Is there anything else on ARPA that we want to talk about tonight?
I just want to apologize. Sorry if I lose my temper at times. I find it frustrating, because I would rather be doing these kinds of things for you all than some of the other things. Yesterday, I think the chief of police spent over an hour, and I did as well, on one individual. We spend probably several hours a day cumulatively. And so I want to apologize when I lose my sense of cool.
All right, hearing no further discussion on ARPA, we're gonna move on. We have some warrants we need to sign. We also have this license for American Graffiti for their one-day entertainment license. We have an accounts payable warrant in the amount of $799,821.67.
It's a loud thing.
What do you say?
That is loud.
And we have a payroll warrant in the amount of $1,052,162.61. Any public comments from the interim town manager?
I think I just made it.
I think you did too. Any
Hold on a
public
second,
comment?
hold on a second.
Sure.
Is this warrant?
Oh.
This is a separate warrant that
Let me
was
see.
attached.
Oh. And we have another accounts payable warrant in the amount of $30,017.81. Any public comments from the board? I'll just say, Carter, I truly appreciate you. I have, for those of you who do not know, I've been putting in a lot of hours in this role. It has effectively been a part-time job for me. I was in the office pretty much all day today, getting everything settled for tonight. And I see how hard they're working in the office. So I appreciate you, I appreciate everyone in the office, all of our employees, all the work that they're doing, and I know tonight we just put even more on your plate. So thank you for graciously working with this board and doing everything that you do for our community.
That's kind, but it's the staff that does the work. I just suggest the item that needs to be tackled next.
It's good delegation. Any public comment from the public? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. It is 7:29 PM and the select board is adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.